Michigan residents overcome long odds to save rescue dog. Stand up for pit bulls everywhere. There's nothing harder to watch than an innocent creature being abused and mishandled. The star of our story is Diggy, a stray that was found sad and lonely on the streets of Detroit. With his future very much up in the air, Diggy would have to endure several huge obstacles in order to survive. However, through the hard work of Michigan residents Dan Tillery and his girlfriend, Diggy would overcome homelessness, city ordinances, and the police in order to find his forever home. Wait, we thought his name was Diggy. If you're lost now, just buckle up. This story's about to get weird. We start our journey on the streets of Detroit, where a 2-year-old stray was found wandering alone. Who could let such a beautiful and loving pup go homeless? While stray dogs are a problem everywhere, the city of Detroit is doing its best to address the issue without hurting any dogs. Sir Wiggleton was picked up by the Detroit Dog Rescue, a no-kilter shelter based out of Detroit. Unfortunately, the DDR van would be filled to the brim when Sir Wiggleton was found. With nowhere to go, Sir Wiggleton's future was very much unknown. Thankfully, Christina Rinaldi, the executive director at Detroit Dog Rescue, was on hand when Sir Wiggleton was found. She was heartbroken at the thought of leaving the poor pup behind. Christina knew that she should do something, so she loaded Sir Wiggleton into the back of her car. Sir Wiggleton was quick to win over Christina and the rest of the team at Detroit Dog Rescue. At the time, Sir Wiggleton was just another stray. He was so beloved by his caregivers and so happy to play that they eventually named the pup Sir Wiggleton. Nobody could have guessed what was to come. Even though Sir Wiggleton had won over his hosts, he still had to sit and wait as other dogs were adopted. The other heroes of our story are Dan Tillery and his girlfriend, 2 residents of Waterford Township. Located an hour away from Detroit, the residents of Waterford Township were serious enough about adopting a dog that they were willing to travel. The loving couple had always wanted to adopt a furry friend, and they were about to get the chance. As Sir Wiggleton sat at the kennel, days would turn into weeks, which would roll over into months. The Detroit Dog Rescue staff knew that Sir Wiggleton deserved a home, but his breed kept adopters away. Thankfully, a Facebook post on the Detroit Dog Rescue page would go viral before being seen by Dan and his girlfriend. The happy couple knew immediately that they were in love with Sir Wiggleton. The depressing truth is that there are countless animals locked away in no-kill and kill shelters alike. Puppy mills and big box stores have become a real problem as they take homes away from these animals in need. Adopting a rescue can be a fantastic way to bring a loving dog into your home while providing them with a whole new look at life. Dan and his girlfriend visited the Detroit Dog Rescue kennel multiple times in order to socialize with and grow to understand Sir Wiggleton. Finally, the loving couple was beholden by his personality, and they were cleared to adopt. As you can tell, Sir Wiggleton was ready to go to his forever home. After taking Sir Wiggleton home, they quickly decided to rename the dog. Sir Wiggleton would become Diggy due to one of his favorite hobbies, digging. Diggy was overwhelmed with love and affection, and Dan wasn't shy about sharing photos of the dog online. Diggy would go viral several times over, thanks in part to his owner's music career. As Diggy and Dan developed into a pair of social media stars, trouble began to brew on the horizon. Unknown to Dan and Diggy, people were growing increasingly upset on the internet. While most problems on the internet tend to stay there, this issue would become a real problem for the newly happy family. On a normal day like any other, Dan would receive a shocking visit from the local police. As it turned out, his pictures online had been reported to the police department. Apparently, there was a city ordinance in place that banned the ownership of certain breeds of dogs. Despite the lack of understanding that goes into banning breeds like pit bulls, Dan was being told that he had to surrender Diggy to the police. The police officers claimed that Diggy was a pit bull, and as per city ordinance, the dog had to leave the city. The ordinance had been put in place by the local government of Waterford Township in 1990. Ever since that day, the ownership of pit bulls was explicitly banned. As the police talked to Dan, they quickly came to realize that Diggy wasn't a threat or a nuisance. Diggy greeted the police by wagging his tail, showing his trademark wiggle, and licking their hands. It was evident that Diggy was a loving, cared for, and safe animal. Even though Diggy was clearly not a threat to the public, Dan understood that he was going to receive a ticket for $500. Dan was both shaken and furious by the ordeal, even though he knew that the police were just doing their job. The story didn't end there, as Dan had a card up his sleeve. As it turns out, the police had overlooked one very important detail. Instead of surrendering Diggy to the police, Dan happily paid the citation that he had received. While the issue still wasn't in the clear, Dan had at least bought himself some time. So Dan did what he always did when he wanted help. He went to the internet. It didn't take long for Diggy's personality to win over thousands of supporters around the country. More importantly, nearly 200 local supporters would agree to show up in support of Diggy would it be necessary. Dan wanted to make his case before the town hall, and he knew that he'd need assistance. As Dan attended the Waterford Township Town Hall meeting, hundreds of supporters would show up in tow. It was soon clear that Diggy was more loved than disliked, no matter how many outdated city ordinances he was in violation of. At the Waterford Township meeting, Dan would end up revealing that Diggy wasn't even a pit bull. He was an American bulldog. The wildest aspect of the story was that Dan and his girlfriend had been compliant throughout the process. From the beginning, Diggy had been registered as an American bulldog, which was completely legal breed. Thankfully, Diggy's case would end up getting tossed out of court. Diggy and Dan would get to go home to their happy life, where they continue to be best of friends. As you can tell, the story has a happy ending. If you want to bring a happy ending to another loving dog in need, head to your local shelter or kennel.
Animal lover? Subscribe to our channel for all the latest in pet care and animal rescue. You can also visit our store, where you'll find cheeky merch for cats and dog lovers, including fun and original t-shirt designs and many other accessories you will love. Our earnings will help support and rescue animals in need and make a difference in their welfare. For more information, visit www.pawsfashion.store. Thank you for being a part of our growing community and for caring about animals and their lives, especially at a time where they need you the most.